So the guy who plays Captain Price in the Modern Warfare series recently let it out in an interview that he is doing voiceovers for Captain Price again in the next Modern Warfare, which means the next Modern Warfare is past pre-production. It is in full production mode, and it's going to be Modern Warfare 4. Otherwise, it wouldn't be Captain Price, right? And obviously, Captain Price is going to play some kind of a role, which I thought was kind of funny. You know, in the Modern Warfare 3 campaign, if you're going to kill somebody, why not kill Captain Price and keep Soap? That Soap's who everyone fell in love with. That's who we played. That's who we were. Why kill the player and keep Captain Price's old ass alive? But going forward, that means Modern Warfare 4 is in production. It means it's being made. And I know everyone's going to make their Modern Warfare wish lists and talk about what they want and talk about what would be cool and talk about what they don't like, you know, a month before the game comes out, when the game is already made and all the decisions are final and there isn't much room or time to really change anything. And so I thought I would talk a little bit about it right now. Now, Infinity Ward is going to have to do some bold and revolutionary stuff, right? Because they're going to have to top Black Ops 2. And Black Ops 2, whether you like it or whether you don't like it, it did, you know, it really did push the envelope. It was very, what do you call it, innovative. You know, they did the new things with the campaign. You got RTS moments, you got choices you got to make. You got an unlock system and a very thorough and just overall, you know, deeper campaign experience. You have a wave defense game type that I think makes survival mode from Modern Warfare 3 look silly. You have multiplayer that finally has a score-based reward system. Obviously the lag is a problem that Infinity Ward seems to handle a bit better, but the point is, Infinity Ward is going to have to step up its game. And this is always the case for every Call of Duty. And so the question is how and what and why. Well, I guess that's questions. For starters, their campaign is going to have to do what Black Ops has done. They're going to have to go as in-depth as Treyarch has with the unlocks, you know, these RTS, RPG moments scattered throughout where you're, you know, selecting certain missions and there's like side missions and, you know, where you're moving forces to various positions. Like the mission that sticks out in my mind clearly is that one that's on drone. And, you know, you're defending that inner lair, and there's these 3 power points, and you're commanding squads of Marines and AGRs and sentry guns, and it's sort of confusing, but once you figure it out, it's pretty neat. And I think ultimately what they might end up doing is incorporating what has traditionally been Spec Ops into their campaign, you know, with mission selection and some sort of, you know, 3 out of 5 stars system maybe. But if they put all the Spec Ops in the campaign as basically side quests that earn extra abilities for the main missions, that could be neat. Like you complete a Spec Ops mission where maybe you steal like an armored car from some guy, and then you get to use it in the story mission, and it's an advantage that you otherwise wouldn't have. That would be pretty cool. And I'd like the campaign to have some relevance to the real world. You know, I'm tired of fighting psycho Russians and these generic Arabic African militias whose sole intent is always to destroy America / the world for no apparent reason. You know, we know there's going to be resource wars, clean water's running out. We know third world countries not on a coast are going to be at each other's throats for clean water, or maybe for food, or maybe like the rise of the oceans has destroyed an island and they have to go fight for a new home on a separate island, but nukes are involved and it's an unstable situation, so Captain Price has to skydive in and save the world on the back of an elephant. You know, something like that. Now, Modern Warfare 3's wave defense was sort of bad. I played a lot of it. I did enjoy it. But what was wrong with it is that it was clear they made it in the last minute. You know, mostly to appease Zombies fans from Black Ops 1. And it got pretty exciting after like round 19. But the problem was it was like half an hour of mindlessly and monotonously beating up AI for like 10 minutes of excitement after round 19. And so it was sort of lopsided and it got, you know, monotonous. And people didn't respond well to that, so ultimately they released Chaos Mode, which was pretty addicting. And its main, you know, what made it cool was that the rounds were like 10 minutes total. You know, even if you got really far, that would only take like 15 minutes. So what I'd like to see in Modern Warfare 4 is a similar system to the campaign mission that I was talking about on drone. You know, you fight off a wave of enemies, you earn some points, and then in between rounds you can use those points to like buy AGRs and squads of Marines and then position them tactically from this overhead sort of commander point of view, which is kind of what they tried to do originally, but basically I think they did it poorly. I think they should streamline it so you just pull up a menu in between rounds as opposed to having to run across the map to a certain box and then throwing the marker down in some spot and it has to get air called in and all this nonsense. Like for the round of survival, you're in first-person mode, shooting, defending, and then when the round ends, you jump into like an RTS mode, like Age of Empires or Rise of Nations or something like that. You build your forces and it's like an arms race with the enemy AI and yada yada yada. And it definitely needs to be a 4-player mode. I think the reason they capped it at 2 was because 4 players on survival mode would have been way too overpowered. But I mean, quadruple the enemy health or something. Make smaller maps. I'm sure you can figure it out. And that's another thing. Survival mode needs its own maps. Multiplayer maps aren't designed for survival. And multiplayer shouldn't be affected by these random survival spots built into the maps. So, that's my thoughts on wave defense. Now, multiplayer is obviously the thing on everybody's mind. And first let me say that Infinity Ward needs to incorporate everything that Treyarch did right. Gun balance, score streak system, the unrestricted create a class system with the wild cards and all that good stuff, and no more second chance or last stand nonsense, no more getting shot in the face and falling on the ground and then getting back up later. That's ridiculous. And I'm glad that's gone. Treyarch did that very right. They did it correctly. And I'd also like to see the customization options with the player cards and putting your stuff on your gun. I'd like to see that return. And I'd like the prestige system is phenomenal in this game. I think they finally figured out how to make it like prestiging isn't painful, but it's still kind of worthwhile. And you don't gotta get all the attachments for your guns again, which is nice. Now, I say this because in Modern Warfare 3, they completely forgot about all the cool stuff that Treyarch did do right. And I think that's because Black Ops 1 got so much hate that they just, wrote it all off as a bad game. But, they didn't bring in player cards, and they messed up the leaderboards. Treyarch cares about the leaderboards a lot more than Infinity Ward does. And I don't know, how you feel about leaderboards, but I like my leaderboards. I like to be able to, match my achievements up to somebody else's achievements. And Infinity Ward kind of did them haphazardly, and they didn't account for, nonsense like score per minute was, if you played Search and Destroy, you could mess up your score per minute and all that nonsense. But Treyarch did leaderboards right in Black Ops 1. They did it right in this game. I hope Infinity Ward, brings those back. Now, past that, it's hard for me to think of what they could do. If this were back in Modern Warfare 2, I would have had this long list of things that needed to be done. Not that I wanted, but that needed to be done. And it's like everyone bitched about it for so long that it's all finally here. I got everything that I could have wanted in this game, particularly removing death streaks and, having this score streak-based system. And I know a lot of people complain about how Call of Duty is the same game re-released every year, and I get that. But what we have to realize is that the developers are basically capped. They've been on the same console for like 6 years. This is the best engine they're capable of, and all they can really do each year is change the rules of the game. And you know what? I really like the rules in Black Ops 2. And so I don't know what they're going to be able to do going forward. Maybe dedicated servers. As if. But those are my thoughts. This is Batman signing out.